Good morning, everyone. We're going to start the meeting. We're also recording this, so don't say anything bad, okay? Bree's going to start out the meeting today because we had something a little different. We aren't able to use Cerberus anymore. That was the link, the secure link that you could send your documents if you wanted to, if you were running something in payroll and you wanted to send us a report that the way you ran it or something and it happened to have social security numbers or something, you could use Cerberus to send it to us. You also use that to send your W-2s and your 1099 files to us securely so we could print. Cerberus tripled the price on us, so we're not using them anymore. And payroll has a way for Melissa to go and grab your file when you run that print file for your W-2s, but budgetary doesn't. So we have a new link that you're going to be able to use to upload your 1099 file. And if you would need to send something securely to us, there will be a new way to do it. And Bree's going to cover that for us today. So come on up.
Okay. So as Missy said, we will have a new link sent to everybody. This is just going to be a Google Drive that's secure for each individual district. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for us.
There was a printout that was included in the printouts we sent you. This is what she's going to. Sorry.
So you're going to get an email from F-Staff or one of the individuals of F-Staff. This is going to be a link specifically for you as a user. Each treasurer will be receiving a link, and then each budgetary clerk will be receiving a link as well. Right now, I don't believe that we'll be sending it to your payroll clerks because you will not need to use this. Within payroll, we'll be able to extract your W-2 data directly from the redesign instance without having to have a mediary in between. So we can go right into redesign and pull your W-2 data out for printing if you elect to have us print that for you this year. But the 1099s, as Missy said, do not have that option within USAS. So you will have to upload your 1099 data into this secure Google Drive if you want us to print it for you. So you'll get an email just like this saying a folder has been shared with you. In this instance, it says a folder OME-RESA. That will be replaced with your district's name. It will say a folder Harrison Hills or Indian Creek or whatever your district is will be shared with you. And then once you open that email, there'll be this pretty little icon that you can just click right on and it'll take you straight to that Google Drive. Once you open it, this is what it will look like for you, your Google Drive, and this is where we can share secure documents back and forth. The only thing right now that we plan on using this for is that 1099 data, but it's possible there could be a situation where maybe you need to upload data to us that includes social security numbers, and we do not want that sent in an email attached to a ticket. So there could be other possibilities, but for right now, just plan on this for the 1099s. Once you open that Google Drive, you will click on this new button and then file upload, and you'll be prompted to select the file that you want to upload from wherever that is on your local device. So it's the same way you would search for that file wherever you've downloaded that. And once you select the file, click open, and then that's it. The file will be there for us. You'll see it appear. And as long as that file has a size attached to it and doesn't show all zeros, we know that the data came through and it's there for us. Then you will have options with that file to make any adjustments. You click this little pencil icon here. Well, you can download it again if you'd like, which is what we'll be doing. But if you click that little pencil edit icon or the three buttons, you'll have options to share, download, rename, star that particular file if you need to for your reference in the future. But that's it. It should be super simple, hopefully, for us. I assume everybody's pretty familiar with how to operate through Google Drives, but if not, use this handout as you work through the process, or call us or put in a ticket to F-Staff and we can help you with that too. That's it. So hopefully it'll go pretty smoothly this year, and you won't have to worry about your user ID or password, like it was for Cerberus, being shared amongst multiple users, this is secure. So we'll be able to know exactly who's logging in. Everybody will have their individual access assigned. Any questions on that? Sounds like we have a question in chat. So let me see. Oh, no, that was somebody's WebEx that made a sound. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're good. Thank you so much, everybody. And let's get rid of that. Okay. Oh, we don't want to share her email. And I believe you have a Word document. I will hand it over to Missy Crossley now, who's going to talk about the fun stuff.
Yes, most wonderful time of the year. I always tell them that this is the time I really want to go back to a district where we have to do this. Okay. Let's see, let me make sure I have everything up here. Yes, and okay. First of all, I'm going to show you real quick the knowledge book. I know some people have had issues logging into our knowledge book. So if you have any problems, just let us know. We might have to get you in contact with tech. But from our homepage, you hover over support, knowledge books down here in the lower left-hand corner. My workspace pops up. Okay, knowledge. So you go to your fiscal redesign. And here's where you're going to find your manuals that you've already received. For some of you, you may have seen that I have added the helpful links for the different taxing agencies. On the side here, you can download the budgetary PowerPoint, the checklist, my manual, and a little bit of documentation on the reimbursable employees and an OPSI report JSON. I want to point out to you, you shouldn't try to open this JSON. This is just a downloadable report definition. So RPD is a report definition. You would just import it into your payroll if you don't already have it. A lot of you probably already have it. You've been on the redesign for a year now, at least. So you should have it, but I wanted to point out that information is there. I also have a chapter in here. It's chapter 4, and you will find some of the documents that I'm going to refer to in this manual. My knowledge book looks a little different. These are hidden chapters, which obviously you don't need to see 2021 since we're working on 2023. Okay, get that out. How do I get that out of there? There we go. Put that back up there. All right, so let's go back to the see if I can make this a little smaller so it all fits on one page. It's a little better. Okay. So on page 2, you will find your index, which will tell you where you're going to find all the different things that we're going to go over. So it makes it handy to do a quick find. I don't know why that looks that way on her computer. On page 4, you will see our holiday schedule here at OME-RESA. We will be closed on Friday, December 22nd and Monday, December 25th and Monday, January 1st. Okay, they don't like us. They don't give us much time off. Okay, so just saying. Anyway, let's move on. Pre-closeout checklist. These are things that you can start working on now. To get ahead of the game, make your closeout a little bit easier come after your second payroll for the month of December. So the first 3 are things you want to try to get ran through your payroll if applicable. So your NC1 payments for premium life insurance over $50,000. The adoption assistance, if that applies. I don't think there's any districts who really do that, but I put it in here anyway. Your process, your NC3 non-cash payments. And any adjustments for employee reimbursements that you wanted that were paid originally through USAS. Okay, that's that one attachment that I had in our knowledge book that was with the manuals, and that will refer to this information here to give you more scenarios on when you would use it and how you would use it. You'll notice off to the side I have the pages of the manual that you can find that information. Now, steps 4, 5, and 6. Are things that really only apply if you've added any new city tax codes, payroll items. You've added any new employees, because we want you to check that employee deduction type and to verify the states and the OSDI codes. That's it. Like I said, you can do it to be safe, do it even if you've used this in the past. However, this is more going to apply if you've added any new state, city, or OSDI codes, payroll items. Number 7 is a very important step that you need to do basically now to make sure you're ready for it. And it's about your to verify your W-2 configuration. If you have any third-party sick pay, you want to get that in if you can. I know typically we've heard that some of these third-party vendors with the sick pay and disability wait till the last minute and hold you up. So if you have that, you might want to start, I don't know, maybe put a feeler out when you expect this to go out. If you want to process adjustments for your vehicle lease, if you have tuition reimbursement or dependent care, you want to get those set up. Number 12, it talks about deceased employees. We've had several districts who's had deceased employees. Make sure your steps get done correctly. And then the last step, and it's basically just for treasurers, do you have a login.gov or an ID.me account? If you haven't created one on these accounts, there's steps on page 23. That is the new way you're going to submit your W-2s. You should have been getting emails, but just to make sure that you're set up for that. Very important. Okay, so the year-end checklist, I'm not going to really read everything here, just want to point out a couple things. When you balance your payroll account with the bank, you're going to do your month-end closeout as normal. Just don't close the month yet, because there's other things that need to be done that you need that month open for. I would put a link here for SSDT's general month-end checklist. It's very generic. I added a note here for your ODJFS report that when you go to do the submission, I put the file type here because I know we get a lot of questions which type we're supposed to select when we upload that ODJFS submission form. When you balance your quarter, there I have a link for the SSDT's generic checklist to close out. The next 2 reports, the employee master, the employee earnings, these are created when you close the month and sent to your file archives, but I would suggest you run them and save them, because what's in the file archives might be in the same sort order you would like. It's very generic. So you might want by social security number, you might want by last name. This way you have control over that. So I'd suggest you don't have to print it, just save it. Maybe create a file for calendar year end 2023 and shove these reports in there. It's always nice to have them. See, it's better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. So then, of course, you're going to balance your W-2s. It's always suggested you run that report with errors only first and work on your errors. Once your errors are set up now, you need that are corrected, then you're going to move on to balancing your W-2s. When you are done with this W-2, I'm going to point this out a couple of times. When you've created your mailable form file, you need to notify OME-RESA if we're printing them for you. We've only had one district tell us they don't want us to print their W-2s. If you want that to print your own, you have to let us know. Otherwise, just let us know and we're going to go in and get that file to print your W-2s and get them out to you. Complete and file your required quarter end submissions. Run the OPSI report, and I showed you that, JSON, that was in the knowledge book if you do not have that in your report manager. Run the year-to-date report for all employees, pay groups, and job statuses. This is one of the reports that will go to your file archives, but again, it's sort options. If you want a specific sort option, I do suggest you run it and just save it. New this year, if you are a kiosk district, which the majority of our districts are, you're going to create a W-2 PDF file that will go to your archives, W-2 archives, and that's what kiosk is going to read. Okay, so that's new this year. Very simple. It's just a process to run and schedule the job. You're going to close your December pay posting period, And when you do, before you do anything else, I want you to go to your calendar year end, into the file archives, the payroll archives, and verify that you see these reports. Sometimes it can take a couple minutes. If you want to close the month, go get a cup of coffee, go to the restroom, give it a couple minutes and come back before you move on. Sort of like that in the classic, for people who remember classic, when you did your CDs, I told you not to move on until you saw those reports out on the CD sites. Once you're done, you're going to notify F-staff that you've successfully completed your payroll closeout, and then you can move on with your January payroll. We're not keeping track of districts closing out because in the past, we used to have in classic, when everybody was done, move those to make the C. That's not why we're doing it. We're doing this, so we want to make sure all of you have successfully closed out. If we see somebody who's hanging there, we're not going to leave you out to dry. We want to help you. So we're going to reach out and say, listen, it's the 10th of the month. You haven't told us, are you having issues? What can we do to help? You might have forgot, but we don't want to leave you out there to dry, leaving you out to dry. Here are some important dates that you need to take into consideration as you're doing all this. Your federal, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, which applies more to this group than it did yesterday. RETA, and in any other city we didn't have because every city is different. That is your responsibility to find that deadline. So your follow-ups are going to be if you need to go in and check and to see if there's any changes in your tax rates for city, OSDI, CCA if you have it. We don't have, I think we only have one district who does that. RETA. And then I've always left this link in here if you're unsure if an employee should be taxed. Here's a link. And then update any deductions using mass change or mass load if necessary. Okay. Like I told them yesterday, starting I think it's on page 9, I'm not going to read through all of these instructions. I'm going to highlight a couple things, but please feel free to stop me if you have a question. Okay. We're here to help you. Okay. So handling those life insurance premiums over $50,000. It's very important. I really stress you should try to get this ran through payroll. It just avoids any mistakes. What if when you do adjustments or whatever, you put a wrong number, you transpose, and you're trying to find why you can't balance. If you really can do it, this is great. Here is the link to the IRS publication 15B. That's for all fringe benefits that you're going to see moving forward. There's going to have the chart for you to calculate, and that's not something we will help you with. We're not going to help you calculate that. That's your responsibility because we do not want to be held responsible if it's the wrong number. Okay. So just telling you to go through payroll current or future. If by some slim chance that you do miss it, you're going to have to go into core adjustments for only the 001 federal record payroll item and select life insurance. Okay. If you do it this way, keep in mind Medicare must be paid. So if you don't get it from the employee, you're probably going to have to pay it on their behalf and then recover it from them. But that can cause an issue if you recover it from in January, because then it's going to mess with your Medicare and you're going to have to make a payable adjustment. Yeah. See, I learned a lot from the tickets. Okay.
Melissa, can you go over those steps one more time?
Which one do you want? If you miss or if you got it?
I missed.
If you miss, okay, so you still have to do the calculation to find out how much it's going to be. You're going to go into core adjustments and you're going to create one. You're going to select the payroll item 001 federal. The type is going to be life insurance. The date obviously has to be a December date because you have to be within the posting period. The amount that you calculated and then the description. I'm one for descriptions. I always recommend them, something that you're going to understand in the future. You think you're going to remember something in 6 months and you won't. I'll guarantee it. Okay, I guarantee it for myself. Okay, so in our knowledge book, it has that publication 15B for you to calculate. to help you with that. So when you save that, it will update the total and taxable gross fields for all payroll items that taxes life insurance. So that would be federal, state, OSDI, city if applicable, depends on what you have checked on the city configuration, if it's taxable or not, and Medicare. And then this is going to be reflected on their W-2. Okay, again, Medicare must be withheld. So when you do that, the Medicare withheld, you're going to have to make more adjustments. You're going to have to go in and adjust the Medicare that should have been withheld from that employee for both board and employee. So two different adjustments. Okay. Then you're going to have to make sure you pay that, or you're going to owe a balance on your 941. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Are we good on chat? All right. So does anybody have the adoption assistance? Okay. So I'm going to move past that then. But it's there if you ever need it. Taxable benefits, that's going to be your NC3 payments. You want to process those if you can before the end of the year, if they're available. Such as for shirts, we get this NC3 payments on our shirts. I realized yesterday, I said, I think I have those, but we haven't received the shirts, so I don't have to process them on my next payroll. Reimbursable employee expenses, those are those expenses that you have reimbursed somebody through USAFs with a budgetary check, but you want it to show on the W-2. Here is a link to the document, the reimbursable employees and the SSDT documentation. And then it's also in our knowledge book topic 4.4. Remember that chapter I said it had like a lot of supporting documentations? That's where it's going to be. So your OSDI records, if you had new, this is more geared towards your new, you want to make sure that you have that OSDI code and the city in that W-2 abbreviation box. Okay. In our knowledge book 3.1, you will see a list of OSDI codes. There was a link for those in the body, or you can just click this link. It's actually a control click. So you want to verify your city tax payroll item configuration, that W-2 abbreviation and tax entity code is in there. And because this is a screenshot of mine, you see the RO because it's a Rita for us. And if you have Rita, you have to go down here, make sure in the section Rita, you have the code and the city in the description. So you can find the tax code and rates at this, or go to our knowledge book at 3.1. Verify your city tax records for employment residents. This is very easy to miss. I missed it myself on Lori when I added her as a new employee last year. Found out the hard way that I missed it. So you might want to go in and search the grid, the payroll item grid, filter by city, and have this column on here. And you could do an advanced query if you're familiar with that to show only null. Anybody who has a null in that field, meaning it's blank. So I went to Rita, Ohio, and I found this question. These are not my words. It was a copy and paste from that website. And this is, what is the difference between workplace tax and residence tax? So if you've ever questioned, I'm not sure which one to use. I think it's confusing. I live in Steubenville, I work in Steubenville, and it's employment. I would have thought residence, but that's why I don't work for Rita.
No, because in Ohio, it works.
Yeah, well, but it's confusing is what I'm saying. So that here's like the question was posed to Rita, and that was their reply. Okay. Again, the states, you probably don't have to do anything with your states, but it is recommended that you have the correct state ID, especially if you had to add a new state. Now, this step is the important step, the W-2 configuration. I don't know if any of you have had time to go in and look at this, but there is a new option in that configuration that was actually suggested and asked for by one of our treasurers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have the option now to include only last 4 digits of an employee social security number on the W-2 forms and XML output. So the files we print, that's the only file this is gonna apply to, not your submission file, but your print. So if that is an option you want for your district, you wanna make sure you go into W-2 configuration and check that box. Okay, again, that's only on the mailable one that we are printing for you, which I think is wonderful. We talked about it. We mail them out to you, they get lost. Boy, that's every hacker's dream. Okay, so the highlighted areas on this W-2 configuration screen are mandatory. You cannot leave those blank. You will get an error if you try to save the record without it. So the submitter EIN is your federal ID number, and your user ID is the unique ID that was assigned to you when you registered with the BSO. Okay, do we have any questions on that? We will talk more about that EIN and ID when we get to page 23. Okay. Third party sick pay. There's 2 different ways this can be done. It could be taxable, or it could be done as a non-taxed, okay? So when it's taxed, you're gonna have to go in and do adjustments to the total gross and applicable gross, okay? This will cause the W-2 gross amounts to be higher on your W-2 report, okay? There's more, you'll have to do the Medicare again, like I told you about on the, what did we just talk about? Life insurance. When you do that, you have to pay that life insurance. I mean, Medicare, I apologize. So these are just screenshots of what your adjustments would look like, with the type being total gross and taxable gross on the 001 record only. Non-taxable third party, it does not affect your balancing or your taxes. You do have to go into the 001 payroll item and make an adjustment, but you will select third party sick pay on this one. Okay. Does anybody do the company vehicle? Do you have company vehicles with leases? Okay, I never want to leave some of this stuff out that the SSDT gives us, because we support like 45 different school districts, so I don't know what everybody does. Tuition reimbursement. Do we have people who do the tuition reimbursement? You do? Okay, so anything, the limit is $5,250. Anything over $5,250 has to be ran through, made an adjustment for in here. So you would have to go in there and choose the 001 tax code, fringe benefit, and put anything above it. Okay. And this just gives you the information of when you click it, what's going to happen. And there's more information in our knowledge book. Does anybody do dependent care? Okay. Nobody? All right, then I'm going to bypass that. If it ever happens, dependent care, there is a payroll item for dependent care. So it's highly suggested that it happens to you, it becomes an issue with you. You want this to do this, you don't have to make any adjustments. It's all done for you by the system. Okay. Deceased employee. I'm not going to read through this because it's 3 pages long, but there are things I do want to point out. Number 1, it is very important to follow the steps that you are given here. We did have a district who missed this 3rd step. So obviously it threw off some balancing. So be very careful. I would suggest maybe even printing it and checking it as you do it. That way, if you get interrupted, because in the treasurer's office, I know your phone's ringing off the hook. People are coming in. I want this, I need that. This way you have the check, you can make sure you get it. I will point out that one of the biggest things that you need to do is you will change that name on that for deceased employees. When you pay them, it's going to be the estate of or spouse. That is something you're going to have to ask a tax attorney and a tax person which one you're supposed to use, because every situation is different. But when you are done processing that payment, you have to remember to go in and change that back to the employee's name, because when you go to run W-2s, it will error out. Okay. So I wanted to point that out. The only adjustments you have to make once you do that is to the federal record for the total gross and the applicable gross. I don't want to confuse you, but if you put a stop date on the estate, I would say you didn't keep track of total gross and applicable gross. Why wouldn't you put the stop date on the federal? So it doesn't keep track of the taxable or total gross. Then you don't have to do adjustments. Less room for error. That's my opinion. Go towards the bottom of the last part of it, there's just information, what will be impacted by this and how it can affect your balancing. And again, you can see I highlighted to remind you to change that back to the employee's name. Okay, now this is where Missy's gonna help me with this. This is the BSO access. How many of you have gone in and created login.gov or ID.me accounts? Okay, so the majority of you have done that because emails have been going out. I don't have a lot of hands-on experience with this because I don't deal with this. My treasurer does this for me, so I don't log in to do anything. So if Missy, if you will step up here, please.
Basically, if you already have the account, this is a good thing. In order to submit your federal tax information for your W-2s, you're going to need to use the ID to upload that information. Everything is kind of now being converted over to this new way. It's a secure link is what it basically is. It's a secure way to have this information sent. I've been receiving emails, and I don't know if any of you have, from Bureau of Workers' Comp here lately. They're going to this. So you're not going to log into your Bureau of Workers' Comp the same way you did in the past. You're going to have to use this ID.me login. So everything in Ohio that's got private information, personal information in it, this is the new way they're going to have everybody convert over to have a secure link. Melissa and I were talking, and she said that federal tax, every time she goes to submit her
regular
her
941
quarterly 940 pay, she has to use this. So if you haven't been using this yet, I guess you're still logging in the old way, and you're going to want to establish this account because everything is going to this now. So it's not just for your W-2s. This is going to be for your Ohio Department of Workers' Comp, submitting your federal tax information for per pay, all of that. So if you haven't done this yet, you're going to want to sign up for it.
And I would do it now.
I would work on this now. And
takes 2 weeks minimum.
they just now implemented a two-step verification, meaning that you'll have to give them a cell phone number so that when you log in, they're going to say, hey, is this you? You'll go on your phone.
And you have to don't they take a picture of your driver's license and then it captures your, it's a big,
It's a big process.
It's really crazy because
It's a very big process. Yes. So if you don't have this, you're going to want to start working on this now so that you have it. That, like I said, it's not going to just be for W-2s. This is Ohio's converting everything over to this to keep things more secure. So it's going to be something you're going to be required to do irregardless of if you submit your W-2s or not. You're going to have to do it for other forms of information that the state of Ohio needs. So just a heads up, if you don't have it, you might want to start working on it.
Okay. Thank you, Miss.
Yep.
Yeah, I was shocked when I logged in. I think it was my first November payroll, I went to log in to submit my federal taxes and Medicare. Like, what's this? So I'm like, Missy. So she had to help me get that set up. I guess it means it's working. So I'm not going to go over the employer-sponsored healthcare costs because this is in regards to people who do not track the employer share of insurance through the payrolls. You all have payroll items set up that shows the employer share, shows you run your payrolls. It's keeping track of that. So that's the only reason I'm not going to go over this, but I keep it in there just in case there is one person, and so far there hasn't been, but. Okay, so now we're going to move on to page 27. And this is in regards to W-2 balancing. We have a couple new people in here, newer people. I just want to point out that your employee earnings register is your payroll Bible. Always has been, always will be. Okay. So the deductions at the total or what we're actually ran through a payroll, a refund, what have you. So that's a great tool. Your quarter report, your year-to-date column should be used to balance W-2 report. And the year-to-date gross field could be wrong if you did any adjustments. Okay. So here are some things that may cause those errors, why you wouldn't balance. So if you made any adjustments that we've already gone over, such as the life insurance, the any fringe benefit, if the Medicare that you might have had to do. So this is things to keep in mind when you're balancing. And again, the topics in the knowledge book there to help you. Okay. Down here. So when you're starting to balance, as I mentioned before, when you go in to do your reports, I want you to only go in and run it for your report employees with W-2 errors right now. This can be done right now. You do not have to wait till you're balancing and closing out to go in and run these reports to look for errors so you can start working on them. That way you're not under pressure of trying to finish closing out the calendar year, get your next payroll going. I would suggest that you start on this now. So below are going to be lists of your errors. Errors will prevent you from creating your submission file. So they have to be dealt with. Then following are warnings and information, and they're all in alphabetical order per type of message. So error, they're in alphabetical order, then it goes down to the warnings alphabetical order, such. A lot of these will show you here that the error message tells you exactly what's wrong. So it's not going to tell you what you have to do. But then you'll get down into some that will tell you what is missing and what you need to do. If you have any issues, none of these are helping you figure out what's wrong, put a ticket in F-Staff. We will help you. Okay. I'm not going to go over all these errors for you.
Oh, one more.
Because they'll fall asleep and they'll start snoring. Okay. All right. So then we're going to move straight to page 33 then. This is where we're going to start talking about our submission files. Okay. So once you've balanced your W-2, no errors, you're balanced, you're good to go. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to create your W-2 mailable print file. Mailable is the file that we're going to use to print your W-2s. So I'm going to show you real quick, maybe if I'm lucky. I gotta set this down so I can log in. Okay. No, I don't want to change my password. Okay, so reports, W-2, and then there's specific one for just mailables. When you run this, keep track of all your options. Do a screenshot, write them down. You will need the same exact options when you create your PDF file for kiosk. You want them to match. What there's the form that they receive, you want them to see the same exact thing when they go into kiosk. So keep track of this. And I do have that as a note at the bottom of page 34. I think it's 33. To remind you of that. Okay. So once you create it, you click on this, generate mailable forms. up here on the right, you will see your job and you will see that it's processing. Okay, so once it's done processing, you'll get a message at the bottom when you hit generate that where it's been moved to, this file's been moved to. And this is where it's going to get moved to. W-2 reports, form output files. And you will come here to find it. So I sent it to archive. So hold on one second. I'm going to run this again real quick. I forgot I did that yesterday. No, we don't. I can't show you. So here's that message. Jobs start to generate W-2 forms. Generate forms can be found in the W-2 form output files view. So you can see up here, it's already completed. Okay. Probably because I have 2023 here and I'm actually the demos in 2021, which brings up a very good thing to point out to you. If you're in January processing your W-2s, you need to be very careful of this because it's based on the actual date. So if it's January 2nd, that's going to say 2024. Okay. So if it's in January, you want to make sure. I wasn't careful. I need to go back to 21 because I knew that went too fast. And see how it says starting? And it takes a couple minutes, depending on your district size, it can take a little longer. Smaller districts might go quicker. Others might be quick. Let's see, W-2. Now I want to see if that other one's in here. Okay, that's the one that I just did that was wrong with the year. And I'm going to use this for the example. Once you see that complete on the side for that mailable forms, you're going to come here and I want you to verify that you see this mailable.zip file here to make sure it's there. Once you see that, email F-staff. Tell them my forms are ready to be printed. What we're going to go do is we're going to come in here and we're going to download the file onto our computer so we can run it through. I don't want to save it for her. And once we're done printing it, and I will tell you, we ran into issues with bigger districts, our printers jam because it gets so, there's so many forms. We have one district that had over 800 W-2s. So it jams. But once we're done completely and we know we're good to go, we're going to click this button here and it's going to send it to your W-2 archives. And it will be, because this is demo, I can't get it to, I can't see file archives. I don't know why, but it will move over. Now this is that other job, 2021. Do we have any questions about that process? It's fairly easy and straightforward in this, and you do have step-by-steps right here, okay? All right. For this, the next one is your copies. Now this is something you're going to print, okay? We don't have the option because we're printing using the SSDT's redesign. We won't be printing the perf paper, you know, where it was two, and you can pull them apart, but they were, Missy was at top than mine, and we won't get that file anymore. So you won't have the perf paper ones, but you will have the copies where there's 4 on a page. We sent you those copies too last year. You got basically 3 copies. Okay. We won't be providing you with the perf paper because that's not a file format that we are being provided with through the redesign. The other one is just on plain paper. It's just regular 8.5 by 11 paper that you will print them out on. So let's see, that one is options. So reports, W-2 reports, report and submission. I can never keep this straight. There we go. Okay. And this will be for forms right here, defaulted to forms. Again, you want to make sure all the options are the same. Okay. And then you generate your W-2 forms. You'll get the file. Generate. Again, it's in the output file. We're going to go to reports, W-2, output file, and see the difference. Mailable, it helps distinguish which file you need to print. You will download it just like we do, and then print that file. I do suggest maybe you do have a file on your computer, see, 2023 CYE, and anything you say for the quarter end, the balancing and closing, such as these, put it in a file. They're always nice to have. Okay. So now it's time to do your W-2 submission file. It's basically going to be the same options that you took for your other file outputs. But here are the instructions for that. Once you have created a submission file, these reports will go out into your file archives for the calendar year bundle. Okay. And just so you knew, calendar year bundle, it's not going to be its own tab, calendar year. It's just, you would filter by 2023 and you'll see a calendar year and you would click on that to see the files within. It doesn't hurt to go out there and it's in here just to verify that they're there. Okay. So once you're done with that, you're going to log into the BSO. You're going to run it through AccuWage to make sure the formatting is correct. There's no issues. Here are the steps of what you have to do. And then if everything is correct, you will go through the next set of steps to upload them. Okay. I'm sure you've all seen this, but now you have the option to create your own W-2Cs. If you have any W-2Cs, which we rarely have, but it happens. I'm not going to go over those steps, but I did give you the links to the instructions in the SSDT's documentation, how you go to create the record, the report, and then the actual output file. Okay. Next, we move on to state. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's very similar to the federal, but you do go into your W-2 reports and you click on the W-2 state options and select your state and then run through the options that you can take. And this will be the file that you're going to use to upload through, you're going to run it through the BSO for the AccuWage, just like you did federal. And then once it's clean, then you're going to go to the Ohio Business Gateway and upload that file. Now, right there for state, it's very small. I don't know if you can see this. I went to the link that's right there on the screen and about this W-2 and what this says, the highlighted part says employers, payers who submitted their information through the W-2 1099 upload do not need to file a paper IT3 since the W-2 1099 upload feature creates an IT3 form from the W-2 1099 information that you submitted. So that's one form that you don't have to do since you're filing electronically.
Melissa,
Yes, ma'am.
when you were talking about the ID need in state of Ohio switching to that, does that affect the gateway as well?
You know what? I don't think so, Missy, because you do
Well,
it.
I thought you tried to log in the Ohio Business Gateway.
No, federal. Remember I said I made the mistake?
Oh.
That was my fault. I thought I got them confused yesterday. It doesn't prompt me when I log into Ohio Business Gateway for an ID me.
That may be coming, but right now she can still get in with her
Without it.
old Ohio Business Gateway login. So as of right now, no.
Right now, no, but have it ready just in case, you know what I mean?
I think I'm confused. I thought is Ohio off of the OHID app and then this.
It probably is.
ID me as a federal.
Okay.
I think, but I might be wrong.
You might be right. You know how you get used to something?
Well, it's getting.
Because it
getting
did
confusing.
change to
Yeah.
Ohio ID, but it's been a little while.
It's gonna
That's-
be, yeah.
Yeah,
You
it
have to do the
changed
app,
that
like-
screen. If I was on my computer, I have
I
it.
think.
bookmarked.
That's where your Ohio business, it used to be the safe account, and then that's where your Ohio business
Gateway.
gateway.
Workers' comp.
That's where
Gonna be.
workers' comp is
Workers' comp.
going. I think that's.
Let me see. This is
And
the
then
link.
Other one is like through the SSA,
Mm.
And the federal.
the federal, the
Yes.
SO, whatever,
Mm.
IDE or whatever it is.
And they keep the business gateway and
Absolutely.
Right. Now that she says that, I remember that it did, but it's been a while that it just, and when you do payroll, and I'm sure the payroll people could agree with me, sometimes you're just doing it and you don't,
Well, there's been a lot of changes
Click.
over the past couple of
Yeah.
years with all that, so.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
It
So
is.
it's-
That's, I call that job secure. I always tease and say it's job security. If there's a reason for them to have a job, and so they change everything all the time. That's their job. Yeah, just keep bad apples for everybody. So the state of West Virginia and Pennsylvania, this would affect more of this group than yesterday's group. The state of West Virginia requires electronic filing if you have 25 or more W-2s. State of Pennsylvania is 10. Okay, so here runs through the steps on how to set that up. For the people of West Virginia, they're going to ask you to enter your quarterly payments in here, rounding up to the whole dollar. And then these are the files that are created when you do those. And then I added the link for West Virginia tax and Pennsylvania. So read a submission for those of you who have never done the W-2s yet. That is actually on the same page as W-2 for federal. So W-2 reports, report and submission. Okay, so down here, once you, let me do this, 2021, make sure submission. When you do submission, here's where you will create that submission file for Rita. Now, I did fail to mention when you do the W-2s, and I'm trying to think of which one it is. Is it forms or is it reports? It might have been a submission file. Let me try the submission file real quick. There's one. I have to fill that in. There's one that there's a summary report at the bottom. I want to say someone asked for a summary report for the W-2s, maybe. That's an enhancement. There's a button now, and because this is a demo, I don't have it set up. When you see a summary report, you want to print that. I think it's in the instructions, and I didn't go through all the lines, so I wanted to point that out. I omitted that one. Okay, so once you create your Rita, there's the link. Again, this should go to your file archives. All these files will go to your file archives. So if you've misplaced where you put them on your computer, don't remember where you saved them, they're always there. Or if someone has to come in and fill in for you, and you're out sick and the files need to be submitted, they know where they can find them. Here are the steps for the non-Rita cities. That's that city tab that was on the W-2. And any files that you may create. And it's just more. Now there is a copy option for the non-Rita cities. I'm stumbling today, I'm sorry. Okay, now, creating the W-2 PDF file for your kiosk. So you're going to go to W-2 reports, W-2 individual forms. That's where you're going to create this. So let's go to reports, W-2 reports, and W-2 archived individual. Okay. Make sure I get the right page. The steps are basically the same as your regular W-2s that you're going to fill out. Be careful of that reporting year. If you're in January, make sure you take the same exact steps you took on page 33. I know I said that once, twice, third time's a charm. Make sure you get the same options here as you did on the W-2 mailable forms. That's on page 33. Then you're going to schedule the job to run. This is no different than when you're scheduling your direct deposit email notices. You pick a date and a time that works for you. Okay. Now, once this is created, payroll people, I suggest you go out to the job scheduler and you look for that job to make sure that it is ran. I always filter by username. Like as an IT person, I would go and say I would do Valerie. I put Valerie here just to separate it from Denise, the treasurer, because you're the one who ran it. So it's always suggested you go out there and make sure you see it. The only other person who can see this are treasurers. We did grant the privilege for treasurers to see jobs in the job scheduler. If we missed adding that for you, please send a ticket and we'll get the treasurer set up that they can see all scheduled jobs. Okay. Page 44, Was there a question? Yes.
You said you're scheduling that just like you do the direct deposits.
Mhm.
So if an employee would want just their W-2, can I go in there and pull just their W-2, just that one person's?
You can do that with the mail. It depends on what kind of form you want. Do you want the mailable one
Well,
or on paper? Because the file, remember, I'm moving the mailable to the file archives. You can also do the same thing for your copies that you're gonna print. So those will be there if they need it. But as far, it all depends on when you schedule that job. The job is meant for a PDF file to be sent to the W-2 file archives for kiosk to read. Does that make sense? Now, once kiosk is available, once that job's done, they can go to kiosk and get it. Do you have kiosk?
no, we don't. That's why I'm
Oh.
asking.
Got it.
So, cause like if Patty loses her W-2 and she wants me to email it to her, can I go there to find just Patty's and email just Patty's?
You should be able to. Let's see if I see. This doesn't have file archives. Miss, are you okay with me? Individual, yeah, I thought so. They list them individual.
Always be careful what you pull up because you are recording.
Oh, got it.
So.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing just for a moment, okay? Because I want to go into my OME-RESA one, to double check on what I'm going to see. So let's see. Do you have a bookmark?
Oh,
Miss?
gee, thanks, miss. I'll remember that.
Damn, I haven't got my Christmas gift yet. It's only here. Okay, so let me see. So let's see, utilities, file archive, W-2 archive. Hate that doesn't put it in order. 2022. Okay, when I went to, Reggie,
Yes.
I went to our file archives.
Okay. Or I'll archive, okay?
Okay, clicked on the W-2 archive tab.
Okay.
And in there it says by the description, I have to look at last year's 2022 tax year. When I clicked on that, all the they're listed individually.
Okay,
You would have to download it to print it.
okay.
Okay.
So that's where I go find her name, pull it out.
Yes.
I download it, email it.
Yes. I mean,
I would need.
yeah, email, it all depends. I don't know what this is from. It's from the PDF. I verify whether or not the social security number's on it.
Okay.
You don't want to email anything with a social security number on it. But if it's because this is the first year that we're gonna have where you can only do the last four digits.
Mhm.
I don't know which file is sitting there. Is it the submission mailable one that has only four? Or is it this one you submitted to federal? I'm gonna guess it's the mailable one, but just be very careful,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna get logged out of here and then I'm going to go back to Zoom and start sharing and share screen free, right? She's our tech person. Yeah,
There you go.
there you go. All right. So is that gonna move? There we go. So do I have any other questions about the kiosk PDF file? You gotta love this print. I know. All right. So that brings me to page, I believe it's 44 now, right? 44. This isn't something you have to have for fiscal year closeout. I mean, calendar year closeout. I just left it in here because it's those new W-4 forms. If they put something in this field, where does it go on the payroll item record for them? I still have to refer to this. I'm not like a district that gets a lot of new employees every year. So I often have to refer to this. So I just left it in as a good reference, especially for our newer people. Okay, so page 48, this isn't required, but I left them in here. Let me go back. Let me go slower because I don't want to make the people watching this in a Zoom get sick. Okay. You can run the CRDC report if you want. that is totally up to you. It's not required. It wasn't on the SSDT's checklist for ITC, so obviously it's not required, but it can't hurt to run it and keep it. You never know when you're gonna get pulled on that one. And then the last page, documentation, where and how to get it. So this link here, I don't know if it went into effect a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if you've had a chance, but the web address for the USPS manual, the documentation, has changed. So I put the new link here, and it looks just a little different than what you're used to, so pull that up. Come on. And there it is again. So I put that in there in case you don't have it, so you can grab the new link and bookmark it. And other than that, they're just the AOS and different taxing entities and the publications that you may need, and that's it. Okay, are there any questions about anything I've gone over?
When can you do this?
What part? You can do that pre-checklist now.
Okay, yeah.
Repeat that question for.
Oh, okay. We had a question of when that we can start doing this, and I told you want to try working on your pre-closeout checklist now.
So I know our next pay date is January 4th.
Okay, so
means I want to try to get this closed.
are you bi-weekly or semi-monthly?
Bi-weekly.
And if it's the 4th, you're talking the 22nd, your
Yes.
last pay? Friday's the 22nd because we're closed. That's the only reason I know that.
Yeah.
You want to work on as much as you can. Ask, do you have somebody who has life insurance over $50,000 that's board paid? That's one thing off your list.
I even Xed out
Second
the pages
one,
we don't need already.
The second one was adoption assistance. You had, that's another one off your list. What about NC3 payments?
The only one I think was the deceased employee, which might trip me up, but I think I did okay
Right?
when we processed him.
Okay, well, I suggest you run your W-2 report with errors only.
And have you balanced all your quarters
Yeah,
up till
Okay.
now?
You can act like you're closing out right now if you want.
yeah.
Don't close out, but start, and then that way you have
But
time.
Monday being a holiday, I won't be in there until January 2nd, so.
So you actually have to start on payroll early. As soon as you balance and close out your month, your quarter, your W-2 submission files, print files, it can be December 20th. Payroll's a lot different than budgetary. Budgetary can't do anything until the month's closed. So payroll's a lot better in that sense. That's the only thing payroll's got going for it, okay?
Okay.
So you
That
can
was the only
start.
issue, so, yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to start, you can start now, just a quick trial run to see what's going on. I suggest you do that. We actually have another district who's already been doing the same thing. You know, because she's finding errors. So we're getting those done. So it's hopefully easier at that time. And you know, if there's a mistake, it had to happen on the last pay.
Yeah.
So that narrows it down for you. So that's a very good question. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, Miss. It's all yours. We're gonna pause the recording.
Does anybody want to take a break?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna pause the recording right now while we're gonna take a small break and switch over from payroll to budgetary. I told you Bree was my tech person. She has to come do it for me. Oh, there they are. I'm sorry.
Okay. We're going to go over USAS now. It kind of went quick yesterday. I didn't have a lot of questions, so if I'm going too fast for anyone, please let me know and I will slow down. I have two different printouts here. One with the Santa on it is just the straight up checklist. If you've done this 100 times and you don't need to see the screenshots, you don't need the additional explanations, you can use the Santa handout. The green and red handout that says USSR across the top, that's the PowerPoint that has more screenshots and a little more explanation if you need it. We're going to go through the PowerPoint today. My suggestion to you is go through the checklist, the one with the Santa. If you need a little further explanation on the checklist, there's page references to go right to the PowerPoint. So you can see the additional information. You don't have to flip through. But if you go through the checklist, you'll hit every step and you won't miss anything, but you still have this backup documentation to help you. Okay. So on page 2, we're gonna start out with submitting 1099s. There's a configuration set up in USAS that needs to be completed if you're submitting your 1099s to the IRS. I went through and logged into everybody's USAS instance to make sure that the information was at least in there. I didn't verify that it was correct, but I verified that it was at least in there. And if you flip to page 3, you'll see a little more, what the heck happened there? If you flip to page 3, you'll see the more detailed information of what needs completed. That top box needs checked, that transmitter control code needs completed, and then down in the body of that, that's what I would ask all the treasurers to log in and verify that that information is correct. If you did not have that box checked and that transmitter code completed, I sent an email to that treasurer to remind them that that needed to be done. So if you didn't hear from me, then you know that information is in there. But again, I would just feel better if everybody would log in and verify that what they see there is correct. On page 4, you now have the ability to truncate the first part of the social security numbers on the 1099s, just like you do in payroll. By default, the SSDT has that set to not truncate it. So if you do not want the full social security number to appear, you're going to want to go into this configuration, and I have a path listed there: system configuration, IRS form 1099, submission configuration. And then there's that little box in the middle of the screen that says truncate EIN TIM. So if you do want those to be blurred out, those first 5 digits, you want to go in there and check that box. That's new this year. On page 5, this has been out for a while, and I haven't been putting it in the book, but I thought I'd put it back in this year for some maybe newer people that aren't aware of this. This is totally optional. It is the TIN matching program that is available through the IRS. What you do is you log into the site that I have listed here, and I believe you can create an account. And when you add a new vendor, you can then go to this site and verify that the social security number or the tax identification number that they have given you is valid. Okay, so I don't know if any of you use that, but it's been a couple of years since I brought this up. Again, it is totally optional. It is just a way to make sure that they have provided you with the correct number.
Use that, like, I have a hard time setting it up. I was just wondering.
No one uses it?
You guys use it? It's been a while though, it's been.
Yeah. No one uses it? I never
Did not
used
know
it,
it existed.
but,
I know.
oh, really?
Who uses it?
No, she didn't use it.
Oh.
No,
Did you know about it?
nobody in the other one used it either.
I guess I do it for my little village. I'm also a clerk for a village, so I've done it with the village.
So you have,
That's cool.
so not with the school, but you have done it for the village because you're a clerk. Okay.
I knew about it, but never used it.
I knew about it, but never used it. So I just wanted to add that in there because like I said, we do have some newer people and some of you didn't obviously know about it if you want to try it. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with it. That's better, thank you. Okay, on page 6. This is something new that the SSDT brought to our attention this year. There's a configuration that the treasurer can go and set for vendor tax ID number. What this will do is when you add a new vendor, if you do not put in a tax ID number, a social security number, a tax identification number, if they're a business, it will warn you. And that's a way just to make sure that at the end of the year, you have those numbers in your system and you're not having to reach out to these vendors at the last minute to get that information. And there's a couple different options. You can set it to not warn you at all, or you can set it to require for all vendors, require for 1099 vendors, or just warn. I would do for just the 1099 vendors if you want to require or warn. Because the other vendors that you don't have to worry about for 1099s, but somebody may want to do it for all. But that's something new that they brought to our attention this year, so I thought that would be something I would bring to yours.
And I do want to point out, last year, you want to be very careful to make sure you have that selected, because there was a couple,
Yeah,
there were a couple districts last year that when we went to print the 1099s, at the time we used that edge accountability that we had it's real weird how you had to do it, but it would stop, it wouldn't work because there were 1099 vendors didn't have a 10 type, so it crashed. So you want to be very careful to make sure that those numbers are, the types selected.
I will bring that point up, thank you, Missy, a couple times during the presentation, because if you do not have their tax identification number and the type, meaning is it a social security number or an EIN number, you don't have those two fields selected, we will not be able to print your 1099s, the entire file bombs. So if you have a vendor that needs a 1099 and you don't have both those pieces of information, we'll be contacting you when we try to print your file. And then you'll have to go back into December, fill in the information, create a new file for us. So that's real important when you're on the grid, and we're going to get to that in the next step, to review your vendors that are receiving 1099s to make sure that information is there. Okay, on page 7, these are the things that you can review now, and we'll go into them in a little more detail on the further pages. You can check your location. Again, we just talked about your social security number, your EIN, your vendor ID number. And then there's 2 types of 1099s that they can receive, the NEC or the miscellaneous. And we have a little explanation there of which ones receive which. I will bring this to your attention again this year. Attorneys can receive either an NEC or a miscellaneous, depending on their service that they provide to you. From what I understand, they would receive an NEC if it's an attorney fee. They would receive a miscellaneous if it's an attorney gross proceeds. What does that mean? I have no idea.
Like if you were paying them, like if you were in a judgment
Uh-huh.
lawsuit and the settlement went through the attorney,
They get a portion of that proceed. What I did is I called my attorneys just to make sure they received the right form. That way I'm not doing corrections later. That way, if you hear it from them, you know they received the right thing. Okay, on page 8, this is how you're going to want to review the vendors that you have selected to receive a 1099. You're going to use your vendor grid and you're going to filter. And if you don't have these options on your grid, a more button off to the right-hand side will produce a drop-down and you can add the columns that you need. And you're going to want to add the type 1099, tax ID type, ID number, year-to-date taxable total column. I also add active. I put in that one true because I want to filter it down to only those ones that are active. Why look at all that extra that you don't need to? Then in the year-to-date column, you're going to want greater than or equal to 600. That's going to pull up everybody that's made over $600 that you're going to have flagged to receive a 1099. Okay. And you also want to put in there that less than and greater than non-1099. That means show me everybody that is a 1099. When you have that grid up, you can hit that report button. So if you want to print that, take a ruler, run down everybody, whatever makes it easier for you. There's where you're going to want to view to make sure your numbers are all there. And if they have the SSN or the EIN selected, Again, we'll say it one more time, make sure that they do, because if you don't have those two fields, we won't be able to print your file. I print the report and save it just to show that I filtered, I viewed it, and this is what I saw at that time. I know I'm a little extreme, but I want proof of that I did it, and and then it could come back to bite me if I missed something, right? Okay, on page 9, like we were talking about your attorneys. This is a way on the type 1099 to start typing in attorney, then all your attorneys will come up, and that's an easy way for you to double check to make sure that they're receiving a 1099, what they're receiving. Have you reached out to all of them? That's just a quick, easy way to just come up. Page 10. This is the way you're going to filter your grid for everybody that you have not receiving a 1099 that's made over the $599. So you want to pull up everyone to see if any of these people that have made $600 or more are not receiving a 1099 should be. And this is the explanation of how you're going to filter your grid for that. Again, I print it, save it. But again, I'm old school. I still use a paper calendar. They all make fun of me. That's okay. Okay, page 11. This is the SSDT 1099 vendor report. This is just a way to look at all your 1099 vendors that you just viewed in your grid. I run them and check it to make sure it matches what I viewed in my grid, and save that also. Make sure the total matches the same vendors. Not necessary, but just another double check if you want. Page 12. If you realize that somebody should be receiving a 1099, but they're not because their dollar amount's incorrect for some reason, this is how you make a vendor adjustment to increase or decrease that year-to-date total. So they will either receive the 1099 or not receive the 1099. You go to the vendor grid and you click on the little picture of the eye, then the next screen will come up and you will click on vendor adjustment. When you do that, you click create, page 13, and you could add a positive or a negative amount to adjust that year-to-date total. Down at the bottom of page 13 are some reasons why you might need to adjust that. A very good example would be if you have two vendors that are the exact same and you need to combine them, you would need to put a negative on the one, positive of the dollar amount on the other, to use only that one vendor that you've combined it into, so they can receive a 1099 for the right dollar amount. Then once all of that's done, that's the pre-closeout stuff. Again, Valerie, to your point, that kind of thing, those kind of things can be done now. You don't have to be closed out for that, or closing out for that. Those are steps that will make it easier. Once you get your bank statement, you can jump right into closing out. So on page 14, you want to enter all your transactions for the month of December and attempt to reconcile with your bank. Perform your reconciliation procedure. Under periodic, there's cash reconciliation. I know a lot of people probably use a spreadsheet. They don't use the cash reconciliation. Just know it's there for you to use if you want to use it. You can still use your spreadsheets. The only time this is required in the system is in June. When you close your books for June, you need to do the cash reconciliation in the system, because you extract a file that you upload to the data collector for your financials, and that information needs to be in there. Once you have all that done, you're going to want to run your cash summary and your financial detail report. When you run the financial detail report, you want to run that for your month to date total amounts, and then those amounts should match your cash summary. For old school people, this was the fin sum and the fin debt. You would run them and compare those. That's what you're doing here. Somebody took offense yesterday. I said, for all the old schoolers, are you calling me old?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm old, I admit it.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
There you go. On page 15, If all the prior steps are performed and everything balances, then you agree, you can move on. And the next step is optional. That's the spending plan summary report. I don't know if anybody still runs that. That was the old SM-12 in the classic system, not required. But if you like to have that, this would be the time that you could run that. And any optional month-end reports that you run above and beyond what the system will create for you when you close the period, now would be the time to run those. And when you close December, there are bundles that will run for your monthly reports, and those will go to the file archives. And on page 16, you will see those reports that will automatically run for you when you close the month. Page 17, if you run any additional calendar year-end reports that aren't automatically generated, you want to do that now. And then there's a list of the calendar year-end reports that will run when you close the month. And when you go to the file archives, there's two tabs. There's month-end reports and there's calendar year-end reports. A lot of people, I always forget to look up at the top and see the tabs all the time. So I'll be on month end and I'll be like, well, where's that report? And here it's calendar year-end report, and you got to click on the other tab. So just a little side note, if you're having trouble finding it, there's extra tabs up there. On page 18, the proration utility. That is a feature in the redesign that you can use to produce a worksheet and a purchase order for your workers' comp. Does anybody use that in here? Roxanne? Denise, you do it. Yep, good. I had only one person in yesterday's meeting that uses this. Do you guys think it's a handy tool? Does it help?
Oh, yeah.
I like now that they've added, you can create a purchase order from the spreadsheet. They didn't initially have that, but they've added that now. If anyone doesn't use it and would like to start and you're having some questions, let me know. We can jump on a Zoom and I can walk you through it. But the next few pages are about that proration utility and how it works. So I'm not going to go into it in detail, but know it's there. And I can do a Zoom with you if you would like to start using it. So we're going to jump to page 21 now. Okay, so this is where you're going to start closing out your books. If you go under periodic and run your 1099 extract, this is where you're going to start producing your 1099s. Now, December must be created in order for the 2023 year to appear under payment year. So we had some questions on this yesterday. Obviously, you're in December. I'm thinking somebody must have wanted to try and run it while they were still in November to see what it looked like, and they couldn't get 2023 to appear. But like Melissa said, you'll be in December processing in your books, in your redesign, but you're physically probably going to be in January when you're doing this. So that year, just make sure that year is correct, okay? We don't want anybody to have the wrong year in there as we're running it. So I'm bringing that to everyone's attention just to be really super careful that you view that field and make sure it's 2023. As far as the type of returns, you can select NEC or miscellaneous, and I'm going to jump to the next page and we're just going to go through each step. I always have said select both, because if you just select one and run the process and you get sidetracked and you might forget to go back and select the other one and run the process, and you won't get one of your 1099 types out. But we tested this in the system, and Lori and I made notes that I could run through this with you. When you select, and I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. You see that? I know it's kind of small. If you want to generate report down at the bottom, generate just the report to see what your 1099s are going to look like, you can't click both NEC and miscellaneous. It will only print one. Yes, you have to click one, generate report, click the other one, generate report. However, if you select the print file, it will allow you to select both, and both NECs and miscellaneouses will combine in the print file. It will also combine in the submission file. The only place it won't combine is if you're generating the report. You'll have to do two separate reports. So once you get both reports, then you can go back up, click both boxes, and you will be able to get a combined print file for us if we're printing your 1099s, and a combined submission file to send to the IRS. Okay, so I'm gonna go back up to page 22. All right, Miss, can you shrink that back down a little bit for me? Okay, so now that we got that step, the next question that's gonna be on that 1099 extract is your output file type. The first one's XML. That is going to be used for printing 1099s if you use a third-party software. We have one district that said they're going to print their own 1099s, and they're going to print them through SCView. You can print them through the redesign, but they know the SCView steps, and that's what they want to use. So that district would choose XML because they're going to print their own through a third-party software. The TAP is the IRS file. That's the file that's the selection you'll choose when you want to create that file, save it to your computer, and upload it to the IRS site. There's reference copies. That is for you. You do not have to print any reference copies if you don't want. But there's the reference copies if you want to print any of those to have on hand in your office. There is 3 or 4 or 5 different options to choose there of reference copies. And then the printer sealer copy, that is the selection you will make to create the print file that you're going to download and send to the secure site that Bree talked about first thing this morning. Okay, that's the file we need that we can go grab in that secure site to print your 1099s for you. So, the next selection under there is you can select a specific vendor or leave blank for all vendors. I would not select a specific vendor unless you just needed to print another one for one individual. Leave it blank for the file for us so that we get all the 1099 vendors. The next one is select output file name. That's going to be what the output file is. You can just leave that blank. Page 24, you can select to or unselect to exclude vendors with no tax ID. Do not select that, please, because you're going to get a file that includes vendors with no ID or type. And that's what we talked about earlier, that we won't be able to print your file. So let's not select that one. Then you're going to see all your organization data. Just review that, make sure everything looks correct on there. If something needs changed, you can go under core and under your district information to update anything that you may need to update. Then the submission type, you're going to select original right now, unless this is your first time submitting 1099s. And I think everybody in this room probably did it last year. So if it is your first time, you do need to select the test, because the first time through, you have to submit a test file to the IRS to make sure everything's lined up and looks correct. Then you can go back and select original. But I think the majority of you have already done this, so original will be your option. I have a little bit more information on pages 28 and 29 of this PowerPoint if you need to do a test file. Prior year submission, no, we're doing it for the current year. This would be if you had to make a correction. So you want to make sure you want to select the current year. Approved for combined federal and state filing program. When I would submit your files for you from the classic system, we were approved for combined federal and state, meaning If I submitted it to federal, state, they would automatically receive that from the federal. They would just pass it on down. All your names were in there. I believe, I went in and checked. I believe all your boxes are checked for proof for combined federal and state. And I believe that's because your names were in the file when I submitted it for you. So I believe you all are still in that same approved combined federal and state. I cannot go check that for you because obviously I don't work for your district. If you wanted to go check that, you would have to check to see if you are approved for combined federal and state. You've all done this once before at least. So did you file with federal and state, or did you just file once with federal? If you filed once with federal and you haven't heard from anybody from the state, then I'm sure it trickled down for them. Denise.
I'm thinking, I'm trying to remember. I think it automatically flows.
I know, you just automatically do it. I know. Like I said, I think everybody is that checked. Yep. So I think you are involved in that combined filing. And it says click print 1099 report. Again, you want to check one box, NEC report, other box, miscellaneous. Then if you want to generate the extract file, that's going to be the one you're going to use for the IRS. Then the printer sealer file, that will be the one that goes to OME-RESA. And again, we just looked at that screenshot earlier. Page 26 is just a little reminder that that's the file we need. Please send that to that secure site. Don't put it in a ticket because there will be social security numbers in there. And some people may choose to truncate, some people may not. So just to be safe, we'd rather you send it to a secure site and send us an email. Let us know that it's up there so we can go grab it for you. Your TAP goes to federal. And once you've done these steps, you're ready to close for December. So you're going to go to core, posting periods, and then click on the little folder and close December. When you do that, all those reports that we looked at a few pages ago, those are the go to the file archives. You saw there's quite a list of reports, so it takes a few minutes to generate. So on page 27, I have a little reminder that it's going to take a little time. So I think treasurers have this ability. I don't know if budgetary staff would or not. I think it's just treasurers. But if you go to utilities, job scheduler, you can see the list of jobs that are scheduled there. They'll say either completed or pending. You want to look for the monthly report bundles, and you don't want to continue on until you see that says completed. Because if you move on and open up January, while that's still running, if you have anything in future in January, it can combine your totals and throw them out on the file archives and they would be incorrect. So once you see that that is closed, you can go to the file archives to verify those reports are there if you'd like. Then you can create your January posting period. You're going to go to 4 posting periods and click create, and you want to click that box, take January current, and then you're closed for December. I have a little reminder here that you want to go to pending transactions, because if payroll is pushed over January payroll, it will be sitting in your pending transactions. Once you open January, then you go there to post all of that payroll, those payroll files. So just a little reminder there to do that. Page 28 and 29 is if you need to create that test file for the 1099s. Again, if you've already done that last year, you don't need to do those steps. Page 30 is the due dates for the 1099s. As you can see, the NECs, they're not due to the, not the NECs, the miscellaneous is not due to the IRS till March 31st. Oh, sorry. There you go. The miscellaneous was not due to the IRS till March 31st. I don't know why somebody would wait. If you have the file done, I would just send them all because everything else is due January 31st. If I waited, I'd forget. So I'm just sending everything all at once. So that's just my suggestion. And that's it. That's it for budgetary questions. I know I probably kind of went through it a little fast, but anybody, questions at all, even if it's about payroll, even if it's about the site that you need to upload the 1099 files to. No? Wow, they want to go. I don't blame you guys at all. All right, well, thank you very much. Have a Merry Christmas. And Reggie, can we see you before you leave, please? Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I'm always in trouble.
I just.